Hey there, movie fans. Time for a new episode for season 4 of FYC. I'm Scott Mance, and joining me as always on FYC, what would FYC be without the amazing Perry Nemiroff and the mighty Jeff Snyder? Very excited. This is our second episode of season 4. Thank you to everyone for keeping up with us and for keeping us going. And big thanks to Perry for saving FYC and putting it on her YouTube channel. Perry rules!
Happily.
Right? So before we get started, before we get going anyway, we're going to cover lead actress and lead actor nominations predictions. But before we do that, we are going to predict the Oscar chances for a little movie called Spider-Man No Way Home. What a film. What a performance at the box office. It crossed $1 billion worldwide in 11 days. It's the second fastest movie to cross $1 billion in 11 days, tied with Avengers Infinity War. But Avengers Endgame still holds the record for crossing $1 billion in just 5 days, which is absolutely insane. But ladies and gentlemen, what are the chances for Spider-Man No Way Home at the Oscars? I think it's kind of a shoo-in that it'll get nominated in certain crafts categories, but what about Best Picture? We'll save that prediction for last. Perry, which nomination do you think Spider-Man No Way Home is a shoo-in for a nomination?
I think it's only visual effects. What else is there?
Well, okay, well, visual effects is absolutely number one on my list. I think, Jeff, I'm sure you agree with that, right?
I don't think it's a shoo-in for visual effects at all. I didn't think that the effects in Spider-Man were anything that great.
Well, actually, I think some of the best visual effects were the effects that were a little more subtle, particularly in making Alfred Molina look like he did back in 2004 Spider-Man 2.
That's
I think
fair.
that effect,
the de-aging, the de-aging technology, absolutely. That's a
the
good
de-aging has gotten a lot better. Even
You've
in
seen all these characters before, it's not like they really presented anything new from like a visual effects standpoint. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that another film that's a shoo-in for visual effects nomination, another superhero movie, another MCU superhero movie is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Perry.
So I'm going with Shang-Chi to get that nomination, but I kind of refuse to put Eternals in my predictions to get that nomination just because that was one of the elements of the movie that I was the most critical of.
Right. Oh, no, I agree with that. I definitely had issues with the visual effects in Eternals. I thought Shang-Chi was much better. And I think Spider-Man is also much better. What about, come on, Perry, what about sound? Best sound?
No.
No?
I think that there are other movies more likely in that category to score those nominations. It doesn't even feel like it's on the bubble. It feels like it's so far down the list that it's not even in the realm of possibility. And, the Spider-Man No Way Home score is also phenomenal, but I just think that there are 5+ movies that are so much more likely to realistically get those nominations, even with the movie doing incredible numbers at the box office. I don't necessarily think that those numbers are going to propel it into the likelihood of scoring nominations in those categories.
Okay, before we get on to score, Jeff, how do you feel about sound for Spider-Man?
I mean, it had good sound. I could barely hear it sometimes because people in the theater were cheering so loudly. I feel like it came in with like built-in applause breaks or something. But I don't know. There was a lot of big movies that came out this year, whether it's Godzilla vs. Kong or Bond or all the other Marvel movies. Don't forget like Black Widow and stuff. So I just don't think Spider-Man is necessarily a shoo-in for any of these awards, even though I thought it was really good.
You may give me nominations.
Yeah, I mean, not a shoo-in.
Not a shoo-in for nominations.
But look at some of the other ones that are more likely to get sound right now. It's like, I think Dune is at the top of that chart. You've got West Side Story, No Time to Die. Belfast seems to be getting a lot of love in that category. I'm a big believer that Tick Tick Boom has a shot, and I also am being a little stubborn, even though I think it's slipping down this list. I think A Quiet Place Part 2 deserves a nomination, but
great.
if I'm going to scroll down further and further, then I hit Spider-Man No Way Home.
I'm with Perry on that.
Well, I agree. I mean, you're right. I think that there are the movies that you listed are also are much better locks for nominations for sound. But Perry, about the score, you mentioned the score. So this is the third Spider-Man movie scored by Michael Giacchino, who's an Academy Award winner for scoring Up, the Pixar movie Up. And he also scored all three of the Kelvin Timeline Star Trek movies. And I mean, he did Rogue One. I mean, he's like the John Williams of of this generation in terms of just how prolific he is. But he did score all three Spidey MCU movies, and I feel like No Way Home is like the return of the king of the Spider-Man franchise, because not only does it wrap up, but I feel like Spider-Man No Way Home is like the return of the king of the MCU Spider-Man movies, and maybe even the whole Spider-Man franchise. So that's why I think that there's going to be more love. I mean, there's certainly love on the commercial scale and the critical scale, because it's got like a 93 or 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. What about production design, Jeff?
No.
Well, okay.
No, I just don't see Spider-Man as like a big awards player, even though I think it maybe should get a Best Picture nomination just for what it has meant to the box office and the culture this year. And the fact that I thought it was good, like it stuck the landing and it introduced the whole multiverse concept. Like, there's a lot of reasons I could argue for Best Picture, but all these other categories, nah, I don't really see it.
So what about you, Perry?
I think I'm with Jeff on this. I really don't think that it's got a good enough chance in any of the technical categories except for visual effects. And then when it comes to Best Picture, I'm not going to be mad if it gets a nomination. I absolutely loved the second half of this movie. It blew my mind. It ignited an even bigger fire in me for the enthusiasm I have for fandom and long-running franchises and the incredible things you are able to do with a movie like this. But if I'm talking Best Picture, the first half of the movie had some issues, and I don't necessarily think that if you're comparing it to some other things that could get Best Picture nominations, it is, fully deserving in that sense. But if it comes down to, being a celebration of what it achieved at the box office and also what it achieved as far as the franchise development goes, like, I'm all for giving it the nomination for those reasons.
All right. Well, first of all, I agree with you 100%. I think the last hour of No Way Home is the best hour of any Spider-Man movie. But the first 90 minutes, I got to say, I remember when I saw it for the first time, I turned to my buddy who I saw it with, and I said, it feels a little slow to me. And also in terms of imagination, I felt like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was a far more clever and imaginative film, and a bolder film, one that absolutely made it deserving of its win for Best Animated Feature at the Oscars for 2018. But it's the last hour that saves it, and really saves it. So I'm just going to go through. So makeup and hairstyling, costume design, editing, cinematography, any of those categories ringing a bell for you? What about adapted screenplay?
No.
No.
Okay. Any acting, director, maybe John Watts?
If you had to nominate an actor from this movie, who would it be, Barry?
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland.
Yeah.
Okay.
Without a doubt. I've been singing his praises in every single Spider-Man movie and pretty much everything that I've ever seen him in. I think I can actually say that with confidence too. I don't think I've ever seen Tom Holland give a subpar performance, and I think I can definitely say with confidence that every movie I've seen him in, his performance elevates the movie overall. So Tom Holland.
Tom Holland. Okay, well, I that's not going to happen, but I agree with you. Okay, let's just cut to the chase here. Best Picture. What are the odds that Spider-Man No Way Home gets nominated for Best Picture? Jeff, you're kind of maybe on this. What do you think?
I am a maybe. I mean, I think it's possible. I think it's within the realm of possibility. I think if the Academy wants to get ratings, right, and save its show, then it will find a way to nominate Spider-Man, or at least get this franchise involved in the big night, whether it's having every Spider-Man in the movie, if there are in fact multiple Spider-Men hosting, or perhaps Tom Holland hosting himself. But yeah, I don't know if I ultimately see it getting a nomination.
Well, I'll say this: if Tom Holland actually hosted the Academy Awards, I think a lot more people would watch it.
I
Perry, what do
really
you
like
think?
I really like that hosting idea,
It really is a good idea. I
but
mean,
I don't think it's getting a Best Picture nomination. It's just it's too far down the line. There's too many more likely movies on the bubble to get into that race, and we already have, like, a pretty full lineup of very
you're
likely
right.
nomination earners.
So many of these awards titles were bad this year, or at least
No.
divisive, and at least Spider-Man is something we can all agree on was better than average.
Yeah. Well. First of all, if you ask me, up until Spider-Man opened, I actually thought that Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings had a really good chance of getting nominated for
Right.
Best Picture because, first of all, it's a great film. It's fresh, it's fun, it's got a lot of humor. The action's great, the visual effects are actually really great, but it also does for representation, for Asian representation on film, what Black Panther did for Black representation in film. Like in terms of a big blockbuster superhero type of movie, I
Mhm.
think that Shang-Chi is on the same level as Black Panther, and Black Panther got nominated. And I feel like Shang-Chi definitely deserves to get nominated. But will Shang-Chi get knocked out of its potential for a Best Picture nomination by Spider-Man No Way Home? And for the sheer sense that Spider-Man No Way Home is the only like movie during the fall season to do really, really, really well at the box office. I mean, Dune did well, Shang-Chi did well, Black Widow did okay, but it's really No Way Home crossing $1 billion in 11 days worldwide, while Matrix, Sing 2, and all these other movies, King Richard, certainly West Side Story, all these other movies underperform because most people are being very picky about what movies are going to see in theaters during a pandemic, and they should be. But I guess they're willing to take their chances with Spider-Man. But I don't know, Perry, final word. Does Spider-Man get a nomination for Best Picture?
No, no, it
No.
doesn't. It doesn't. Again, not gonna be mad if it does, but I think it's unlikely.
And Jeff, your final word on that?
I think it comes down to whether it gets a PGA nomination, because if it does, and it's seen as this savior for movie theaters, right, that's going to allow movie theaters to stay open into 2022 and stuff like that, I think it's possible, but unlikely. And I do think you have to wonder, though, we're returning to a hard 10 nominees this year.
Yes,
And
that's right.
what is the purpose of that? It's whether you think that they did that to get big movies like this nominated, because that's what we said when they instituted it with The Dark Knight, or
Right.
after The Dark Knight got snubbed, or do we go to 10 to try to get the little guy and these indies that can't afford these massive Oscar campaigns? So it's all about how you look at what the purpose of that move is.
Well, I don't think that Spider-Man should get nominated for the sake of driving up the ratings of people watching the Oscars.
You're
Though
right. I don't want that to be the purpose.
that should not be the purpose, though. That would certainly help if it did, because everyone saw Spider-Man, and if it did get nominated for Best Picture, I'm sure a lot of people would tune in who certainly did not tune in these last few years when the ratings for the Oscars keep getting lower and lower and lower, especially this past year. That would be great, but certainly not the purpose. And Jeff, you're right to point out that the Best Picture nominations are a solid 10 this year for the first time since the movies nominated for 2010, because they want to bring in these big crowd pleasers that people have seen. But there's a chance, like you point out, Jeff, that it could just make room for more of the little ones that should be seen but weren't. And
Well, it's diversifying in general.
yeah,
Like, I'm sure there is, like, an underlying, eagerness to get the big budget movies in there to up the viewership, but I don't know. The diversification of the content that we get in this nomination pool will make me happy no matter what gets in there. But one more point, if
yeah.
Avengers: Endgame didn't get the Best Picture nomination, Spider-Man: No Way Home is not getting it.
Well, that is a great point,
I
Perry.
think it's such a better movie than Avengers Endgame. So
Oh, Perry, what do you think of that? Is it better than
I
Avengers Endgame?
I prefer Avengers: Endgame, but I think that Spider-Man: No Way Home is quite good, and the last hour of the movie is exceptional.
The last hour, is exceptional. Perry, I agree with you. I agree with your points about Spider-Man No Way Home. Exactly. The last hour is exceptional.
That matters, Scott, because when you walk out of the theater, you're thinking about the ending.
Right. Well, I agree with you. That's why I loved Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. The first hour was slow, but the second hour made the film, and I forgot about the first hour. But I will say that I agree with Perry that I prefer Avengers Endgame over No Way Home, and I say that as a massive Spider-Man fan. And I still think that the best Spider-Man movie overall is Spider-Man 2 from 2004. Moving on to the reason we are really here, we're going to predict the nominations for lead actress and lead actor. We're going to start with best actress. Perry, Normal Activity. Who do you have as your number one lock for a best actress nomination?
I'll say that this was one of the most difficult categories to rank.
Yep.
Like it feels like there are a couple of people on my list that are close to sure things for getting nominations, but like when it comes to ranking in this scenario, I don't know. It's like I feel like I could swap a couple people in this number one spot, but I'm sticking with Kristen Stewart for Spencer right now. I think that there's a lot of support behind her getting a nomination right now. I think that Neon is doing a good job of putting the film out there as much as they can. And really, she is the core of that movie. I know she's the lead, she's the title character, but there's so much about that movie and the style of it and the type of story they're telling that wouldn't work unless she was giving every ounce of herself to that role. And while I was watching it, I could feel that. And so I am hopeful that others out there who actually vote for these awards will have gotten the same impression and be compelled to vote for her.
All right, Jeff, where is Kristen Stewart on your list? Is she on your list?
I have her at number 2.
Okay.
And because I know that a lot of people win Oscars for playing real people, but I also think that when you're playing a figure as beloved as Princess Diana or Lucille Ball, that people can find the performances divisive. You know, they can be like, oh, you totally missed the mark on this or whatever. And she's a bit of a divisive actress as well. So I was hesitant to put her in the one slot, even though I thought she was great. So yeah, right now she's my number 2.
Can I just make one quick point about Kristen Stewart and Spencer? It's not supposed to be a real life accurate version of her.
Right.
So I feel like while you may go into the movie not knowing that, if, I don't know, you haven't read up on it or watched all the trailers or whatnot, once you experience the story, that it's pretty clear right from the start. So by the end of it, I'm not sitting there comparing notes and, basing my assessment of her work based on how accurate it was.
Well, I agree with you 100%.
That's what people are going to do.
Listen,
not necessarily if they watch the movie and engage with it.
And not if they realize that Spencer is from the same director as Jackie, starring Natalie Portman as Jackie Kennedy after JFK assassination. That movie, just like Spencer, it's not like it doesn't have like a fully realized arc. It's an atmospheric movie. It captures a feeling. It sets a mood. And in Spencer's case, also in Jackie's case with Natalie Portman, but Spencer, Kristen Stewart is the movie. Her performance is the movie. And that is, it's an exceptional performance. That's why I, like Perry, have Kristen Stewart as my number one pick. Okay, Jeff, who else? Well, who's your number one?
The Oscar darling / awards darling herself, Olivia Colman. I think that The Lost Daughter, she was excellent in it. Thought the movie was just okay, but I have a hard time picturing the Academy ignoring her.
All right, Perry, how about you? Where is Olivia Colman on your list? 2?
My number 2.
All right.
Yeah. I think her and Kristen Stewart are like absolute definite locks.
Agree completely. That's why Olivia Colman is also my number 2 for The Lost Daughter, written and directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal. Olivia Colman is already an Oscar winner for The Favorite for supporting actress. That was a surprise win from the 2000. She was a lead, right? Didn't she win over?
She was lead, and then Rachel Weisz and Emma Stone were in supporting.
Right. Okay. So that's right. Jeff, wait, we had a big bet.
You didn't know this.
This was our bet. This was our
Yeah.
bet that Olivia Colman won lead actress over Glenn Close. And I lost that bet, but I won the following year. So I was okay with that. And also Olivia Colman was nominated last year for The Father, and she is an Emmy winner for The Crown. So clearly those types of kudos are in her favor. And I agree with Perry completely that if there are two actresses who are absolute surefire locks for nominations in this category, they are Kristen Stewart and Olivia Colman, which is why they are at number 1 and number 2. Perry, who do you got down for number 3?
So this is where the ranking becomes a major issue for me, but I actually do think that I have a clear sense of the most likely 5 here. Right now I've got Nicole Kidman at number 3. I saw Being the Ricardos and just completely fell for it. I adore that movie. I've watched it probably too many times when I should have been watching newer movies that I hadn't seen, but I think she's outstanding in that film. And I know that I wound up being in the minority a little when reviews started rolling. There was way more mixed reviews than I think anyone anticipated from, you know, an Aaron Sorkin directed movie starring Nicole Kidman. And I think that those mixed reviews have hurt its chances a little bit. But now that the movie is out and available, I'm also hearing a whole lot of support for her. So I'm thinking maybe it like, you know, dipped a little and now it's back on the rise. So I think she's got a good shot, especially with everybody else in the running. I think she just has a better chance than the folks on the bubble.
All right, Jeff, where is Nicole Kidman for Being the Ricardos on your list?
She is not number 4 or 5. She's number 3.
Oh, well.
That's good.
Yes, I agree with Perry. I just feel like she was destined to get a nomination for this role so long as she didn't fall flat on her face. And I don't think that anyone can argue that she did. I thought she did a very good job, because I was skeptical at first too when she was cast as Lucille Ball. Everybody was like, really? But I think that she silenced the doubters and she did enough to get a nomination. I don't think that she's going to win, but she should be in that mix.
Okay, well, the three of us agree on our number 3 because Nicole Kidman for Being the Ricardos is also my number 3. Nicole Kidman, an Academy Award winner for The Hours from 2002. She is also an Oscar nominee for Lion for supporting actress, Rabbit Hole for supporting actress, and Moulin Rouge for lead actress. I agree. I thought that she was really fantastic. And I was a little, skeptical. I mean, no one's really played Lucille Ball in a feature film before. It's amazing that a movie has never really been made about Lucille Ball or like a biopic. But this is like a week in the life leading up to the taping of an episode of I Love Lucy around 1960. And I thought it was terrific. I really like this movie a lot. I've seen it a couple times now. It's streaming on Amazon Prime. So if you have Prime, if you are a subscriber and you haven't seen Being the Ricardos yet, you're kind of missing out, because it's a really, really good movie with an exceptional lead performance from Nicole Kidman, who
saved movies this year, Mance. I mean, she got us all back into AMC theaters.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Number 4 on your list, Jeff.
Oh, this is where it starts to get tough.
Yeah.
I'm going to go, even though I feel like no one has seen this movie, I'm going to trust the experts and say that Penelope Cruz is going to get in for Parallel Mothers.
Okay.
I haven't seen it, but I mean, I know she's a terrific actress and has the respect of her peers.
All right, Perry, you're clapping. Why?
Penelope Cruz deserves the nominations. Parallel Mothers is fantastic, and she's excellent in it, and she is my number 5.
Okay, Parallel Mothers is an exceptional film, one of Pedro Almodovar's very best, and that's a bold statement. Every movie he does is an event if you love cinema, and this is an exceptional film with an exceptional lead performance from Penelope Cruz. She's an Academy Award winner for Vicky Cristina Barcelona from 2008, 2 other nominations for Voltaire, and 9. She is number 4 on my list. I love this film. I was just really riveted by the personal drama, but also the story, the grander scale of the story that's being told by Almodovar here. It's an exceptional film. It just opened in select theaters, I think, on Christmas Day. And as it expands, please be sure to check out Parallel Mothers. It's fantastic. So, wow, our four are almost around the same here in
Wait,
terms of
what was Penelope Cruz at for you? 4 or 5?
number 4. She
Okay.
was
All
Penelope
right.
Cruz.
Yeah, we
number
have the
4.
same top 4.
Okay,
and
now,
Well, no, she's my number 5.
Okay, okay. I just
Well-
think that she gets in. I mean, Antonio Banderas got in, right, for Pain and Glory a couple years ago.
That's right.
And I think that the diversification of the Academy with more international voices is really going to benefit her in this race.
Okay, so Perry, if Penelope Cruz was your number 5, who do you have at number 4?
I have Jessica Chastain. I know that The Eyes of Tamie Faye did not get as many eyeballs on it, haha, as I think the studio wanted. I'm terrible at that shit. But I know it didn't really get out to the widest possible audience, and it's not making as much noise as other films. And really, this is like one of the only categories I would consider it in, but she is something else in that movie. That is an example of someone who just like fully threw themselves into the production, and I think she's great in the movie. This never took me out of it, but while I was watching it, I couldn't help but think of the fact that like I'm watching a movie about someone who clearly cares about the material that she's working with, and I think that wound up making the movie even more effective for me. So I really do deep down believe she deserves a nomination for her work on that film, and add in the fact that she is not just an exceptional lead actress in the movie, but she's also a producer on it. And I think that could maybe bolster her chances a little.
Jeff, is Jessica Chastain on your list?
No, but I'm going to go last. You're up, Mance.
Okay, well, I have Jessica Chastain at number 5 on my list for everything that Perry said. I liked the film. I thought it was fine. Michael Showalter, who also directed The Big Sick, so much of the movie for the first 7/8 of the film, I felt like I already knew it because I'd seen the documentary and I knew the story, and I was around, I was old enough throughout the 80s and the 90s when all that stuff was going on. So I remembered that in the news. And I thought the movie got really, really, really good in the last bit, like what happens to Tamie Faye after all that. And I thought the movie did a great job in showing empathy for a person that was ridiculed by the press and by the media and by everybody. Really showed her to be a sympathetic character. I really empathized with her. And I thought that Jessica Chastain knocked it out of the park with a tour de force performance. And I agree, the fact that she produced the film shows how much she cares about this character, cares about this movie. The final scene in the movie where she's singing with just like, that was her for your consideration moment, which is why she is landing on our for your consideration list, at least with me and Perry. I'm not so sure about Jeff.
I'm so curious, Jeff.
This is going to be a little bit of a 2-minute rant. Here we go. I'm going to try to do it the best I can. Nobody liked Tamie Faye's not a very good movie. She was very good in it, but it didn't make any money. Nobody saw this movie. I don't think that she's getting in. I don't know how well liked Jessica Chastain is in the industry in general.
Really?
Yeah. Jennifer Hudson, respect. Again, nobody's really talking about this performance. Frances McDormand, I saw Macbeth. No, not getting a nomination. Rachel Zegler, West Side Story, not getting a nomination. This is between 3 actresses. You've got Lady Gaga, House of Gucci. I don't think that she gets in. I don't think that this is enough. So for me, it's between 2. The 5 slot is the passion pick. You've got Emilia Jones and Coda, who I think gave one of the best performances of the year, hands down. She had to sing, she had to learn sign language, and she had to communicate with all deaf co-stars for the most part. Okay, this is a very high degree of difficulty, but I still don't have her at my number 5. My number 5 is going to go to someone who just is different than every actress that we've talked about, and I think that's Alana Haim for Licorice Pizza. I think that Alana gets in. She really impressed me. I thought she was just different. So there was just something unique about this performance. And I think that people do like Licorice Pizza, and that is how they will honor that movie, is via a nomination for her.
Okay. Before I address that rant, Perry, you go first.
I don't think that anyone has a real good shot besides the 5 people that Mance and I named. But I will say, if I mean, I loved Licorice Pizza. I do think the conversation is too divisive to have her performance propelled into the cat. I feel like if Licorice Pizza was beloved from top to bottom and everyone was rooting for it to get in there, I think Alana Haim would really have a shot. Alana Haim. Did I just say Haim?
Yeah.
That's weird. Um, and then with Coda, I mean, if she got the nomination, I'd be freaking thrilled. That'd be one of the best surprises. But again, it's just too far outside the
I'm
realm of
just shocked
possibility.
that Chastain is the one you're going with. Because do you smell something, Mance? Do you smell it? I smell a bet.
A bet,
I
Okay.
smell a bet because I will take if you guys want to take Chastain, I will take the field. I mean, if you'd be willing to give me that.
Well, okay. So
I don't
first of
think
all,
Chastain's
no, that's not fair.
Give
Second
me,
of
give me
all,
2 or 3 names because I don't
okay.
think Chastain's getting it.
First of all, I love Licorice Pizza.
Hmm.
I thought Alana Haim was fantastic in the movie, but I feel like with all these other contenders that we've been talking about, some of the ones, Jeff, that you said are not going to get nominated, like Rachel Zegler and Jennifer Hudson and Lady Gaga.
Right.
I don't think Alana Haim gets in over them. I think if anybody's going to sort of maybe knock off Jessica Chastain here, and I think that maybe she should, now that I really think about it, it's Amelia Jones for Coda. Now here's why. And again, not taking anything away from Jessica Chastain. I had her at my number 5. She's, whereas Amelia Jones was my first in the honorable mention list. She was the first one there because, first of all, Coda is my favorite movie of 2021. Second, I have loved Coda ever since I saw it almost a year ago, virtually through Sundance, where it won 4 awards, got picked up by Apple for a record 25 mil. It's a feel good crowd pleaser in every sense of the word. The problem is that unless you have Apple TV, you're the subscription to it, you're not going to be able to see it. And I don't think enough people have seen it. And I don't think enough people are talking about Coda, and they should be, because it brings all the feels. It's the Little Miss Sunshine of
It's
2021.
going to get a Best Picture nomination,
Yeah.
Scott. Tamie Faye is not. No one's talking about Tamie Faye this award season. They're talking about Jessica Chastain. I'll give you that. But the movie might as well be invisible.
Well, but when you say it like that, the campaign can be solely focused on getting her that Best Actress nomination, whereas Coda, I think, is going to get busier and busier as the season progresses, gunning for that Best Picture nomination and also maybe 2 supporting nominations as well. And
Rising tide.
I think it is to a point, but if you only we've had this conversation many years, if you only have so many resources to go around, and if you need to put more weight behind certain individuals and awards, you do it with the ones that you are most likely to get. And I just feel that even though Amelia Jones is worthy, it's too unlikely compared to a Marlee Matlin and Troy Kotzer.
Well, look, I am rooting for Amelia Jones. The purpose of our show, and I've been guilty of this in the other 3 seasons we've done. I put my own personal feelings ahead what I think is actually going to get nominated. And in my heart, I think that Amelia Jones should be a lock for a nomination. But again, I just don't know if enough people were talking about it.
Let's move on to Best Actor and let's lock in Chastain. We, you guys get me 2-1 on the vote, but mark my words, it's not going to happen for Miss Chastain.
But you also don't think it's going to happen for Amelia Jones. You're going with Alana Haim.
Yeah, for now. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Now, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, as we often do, this is our 4th year of FYC, and we've done in the past. We're of course going to revisit this category, so things could change. But let's, like Jeff suggested, move on to Best Actor. And since I started with Perry for Actress, I'm going to start with Jeff with Actor. Who do you have as your number 1 lock for a Best Actor nomination?
You're going to make me say his name, even though I hated this movie. It's Benedict Cumberbatch.
Wow. Okay. Well, first of all, why did you hate this movie?
Yeah.
It was so bad, man. It was so awful and so slow and so pointless. I hated every minute of it. It's bad.
Jesus. Wow. Okay, but you
He's
are saying that.
totally unbelievable too. But
Wow.
he'll get nominated because the world works the way it does.
Perry, where is Benedict Cumberbatch on your list?
Hey, listen, I mean, Power of the Dog isn't my favorite movie of the year, but I still think it was really good and filled with a whole lot of great like, I was pretty wowed by Benedict Cumberbatch, but he's my number 3. I have someone else at number 1.
Okay, I have Benedict Cumberbatch at number 2. And I will say this about Power of the Dog. When I saw the Telluride on a big screen, I really liked it a lot. When I watched it again at home, I thought it lost a lot of its sustenance because part of a big part of the of what made it so riveting to me was the scenery, the vistas, the open old west kind of feel to it. And watching it on a big screen, you're able to take that in. Watching it on a TV screen, maybe not so much. So it did lose a little bit of its luster for me when I watched it again. But I still like the movie a lot. I think it's a very good film, and I think Benedict Cumberbatch is a lock for a nomination, regardless of whether or not Jeff likes the film. And I don't blame you for feeling that way, Jeff, because I know, I know other people who've said the same thing, that Power of the Dog is boring, but I liked it a lot. Okay, Perry, who is your number 1?
Mine is Will Smith. I love that movie. I really like him in it. And I think it is just a huge, huge, inspiring crowd pleaser. And I feel like people out there are going to want to honor a movie that gives them those kinds of feelings. I know I would if I was a voting member of the Academy. So Will Smith, and I wouldn't mind seeing Will Smith win, except for the fact that there's someone else on my list that I would be voting for the win over him.
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, I have Will Smith at number 1 as well for a nomination. He has 2 prior Oscar nominations for The Pursuit of Happiness and Ali. He also produced King Richard, so he's going to get nominated for there because the movie is definitely going to get nominated for Best Picture. I love King Richard. I just watched it again last week on HBO Max, and it is absolutely a feel-good crowd pleaser in every sense of the word, just like Coda is. But King Richard is a big, shiny, polished studio movie that everyone will, everyone I've spoken to, everything I've read about King Richard, everyone has loved this movie, and Will Smith is my number 1. Where is Will Smith on your list, Jeff?
He's number 2, but I think he's a lock to win the Oscar. I don't know how that works in my head, where I think Benedict Cumberbatch is a lock for a nomination, but I think that the industry is going to honor Will Smith. He has been around since the early 90s. He's been one of our biggest movie stars. This is a great movie in a very weak year, in a very weak category. Look at these. I mean, his competition, I could barely find 5 great performances this year from men. Much better year for women. Will Smith is walking away with this award. Take it to the bank.
Okay, Perry, go ahead.
I'll disagree with that statement. I will say one performance on my list doesn't excite me quite like I would want the nominations to, but only one. And then I have a couple of outliers that are really deserving to be in the mix, but won't get it. But anyway, I have Andrew Garfield as my number 2, and he is the one where in my dream world, he walks away with that statue. He blew my mind in that. Like, I knew he was a good actor, but that's showing off a skill set that is just on another level. He is so damn good in that movie. And here's where I'll bring back Nevermind.
I agree completely. As Jonathan Larson, Andrew Garfield absolutely positively blew me away. A tour de force performance, the performance of his career, the performance of a lifetime, nominated before for lead actor for Hacksaw Ridge from 2016. But I just thought, first of all, Lin-Manuel Miranda directed the hell out of Tick, Tick, Boom. And I think I agree with Jeff. I think that Will Smith is the front runner to win Best Actor. And I would love to see him win. He absolutely deserves it. But if you're going to compare apples to apples, performance to performance, I feel like Andrew Garfield absolutely crushed it. And if it was a should win, will win situation, I think that Andrew Garfield should win, but Will Smith probably will win. Now, is Andrew Garfield on your list, Jeff?
Yeah, he's my number 3, and I agree with everything you both said. He was fantastic. He was great.
Okay, well then who's next on your list, Mr. Snyder?
God, this is where it started getting tough to fill this category out. I will listen. I haven't seen the movie. I will listen to the consensus and go with Peter Dinklage at number 4 for Serrano.
Cyrano.
Cyrano.
Okay.
Serrano. Don't care what however you pronounce it. Not going to see it. Joe Wright.
Oh no! Please see it, Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff.
I'll listen to the soundtrack. I like the National.
That's so disappointing. I highly recommend watching it. And this is one of those situations where Peter Dinklage, in my eyes, better get a nomination. It's similar somewhat to Andrew Garfield. I didn't know he was capable of the things that he does in this movie. And I really do think that this is an instance where, yes, Peter Dinklage shines as the lead character in the movie, but it's also everything else kind of firing on all cylinders around him. And, it's an all ships rise kind of thing. Everything influences another component of the film for the better. And I think that Cyrano should be getting more love beyond this category than it is right now. But Peter Dinklage better get this nomination.
Well, first of all, so Cyrano just had a 1-week qualifying run in December. It's gonna open, wide in January, so more people will see it, and I think that's going to help its chances to get more attention that it definitely deserves. I loved Cyrano, and I completely agree, Perry, with you about Peter Dinklage's performance here. Just like Andrew Garfield was a revelation in Tick, Tick, Boom, and that's saying something. I think that Peter Dinklage is a revelation in Cyrano, and that is also a bold statement. Peter Dinklage, a 4-time Emmy winner. All 4 of those wins came from Game of Thrones, but he was magnificent in Cyrano. And honestly, going into Cyrano, which I saw at Telluride, I was like, oh, it's a period piece. Typically, I don't love those kinds of movies, but I thought Cyrano was absolutely fantastic. There was a feeling about Cyrano. It felt very contemporary, very modern, and I feel like it's also a crowd pleaser. And I think it's a great date movie, and I think it is a movie for everyone. So when Cyrano does open in January, I highly recommend everyone to see it. But I have Peter Dinklage number 5 on my list. And Jeff, do you have him on yours?
Who, Peter Dinklage?
Yeah.
4, right?
Yeah, you had him before. Okay.
Yeah, he's my 4 too.
All right. So,
we agree on the top 4.
Yeah.
We agree on the top 4. So that brings us to who's next that we didn't get to, Perry.
Jeff, you're going to enjoy this conversation. I know it. So right now I have Denzel Washington for The Tragedy of Macbeth.
Okay.
I don't want to take away from anyone else's enthusiasm with this movie. And I do think that the cinematography is outstanding. This is the definition of a not for me movie. And, maybe it speaks to my taste in a bad way, but I'm just like, I'm not well studied in Shakespeare. Like I read a bit in high school, but I felt so distant from the story. And I actually kind of had to stop and remind myself of the events of Macbeth in order to fully be able to appreciate some of what I was seeing on screen. So I don't necessarily think this is a criticism of the movie or even a fair criticism for that matter, but I don't know, maybe it is. Maybe the movie needs to stand on its own 2 feet and not rely on my understanding of the material and being able to absorb everything that happened in it in one shot. But I felt very disconnected from it, and that makes me far less enthusiastic about rooting for Denzel Washington, even though I was still able to acknowledge the fact that he's giving a great performance. I'm very conflicted about this.
I understand what you mean, Perry. Is Denzel Washington on your list at all, Jeff?
I also had him at number 5. Gun to my head. I would put him down because he's Denzel, and I'm not blown away by really too many other people. But God, he's just doing Shakespeare. Just go do that on stage.
Did do that on stage.
I have a really hard time believing that this is going to happen. But then I look at the other people. Let's just have this conversation. Bradley,
wait, hang on. Before you get to that, I just want to say that I also have Denzel on he was my number 4 for the same exact reasons that both of you pointed out. Listen, admired this movie a lot. I thought Denzel's performance was fantastic. Is it a movie that I was excited to watch? No. Did I enjoy it? I would say that I admired it, that I appreciated it, but it's not a movie I'm going to watch again. But it is always a challenge to do Shakespeare, and I thought Washington did a phenomenal job on it.
He was
And
good.
he's he's great, and he deserves the nomination. But there are other performances. By the way, our 5 for lead actor completely match.
Yeah.
So the question is that if you're going to knock Denzel off because, let's say, there's another performance that you are more passionate about, or other performances that you are more passionate about, what are those performances? I'm going to go with Jeff on this because I think you were going to go there anyway.
Yes. So, but real quickly first, it's like if Denzel can get nominated for something like Roman J. Israel, anything could happen. But at the same time, in that movie, he created a character, right? And in Macbeth, he doesn't. So maybe that's why he got it for that. Anyways, I have 5 people in the B tier, and I think that any one of them could replace him. There's Bradley Cooper for Nightmare Alley, which to me is just, he's fantastic in that last scene, but the rest of the movie, Joaquin Phoenix for Come On, Come On, who I think is just great, and it's something different for him. We love seeing Joaquin play, the crazy Joaquin, but this is a nice, subtle, it's a beautiful character. There's Leo DiCaprio for Don't Look Up, which, he's doing comedy. Again, it's a little bit different for him. And then 2 other guys who I'll say, but talk about those 3 first.
Okay, Perry, why don't you go first with that?
You did Joaquin, Leo, and Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
Correct.
I said what I thought about Nightmare Alley last week. It's just not Academy Award nomination worthy, and I've seen better work from Bradley Cooper. I don't think he should be in this conversation.
I agree.
However, I think Joaquin Phoenix should have a good chance of getting a nomination just based on the quality of his performance. Come On, Come On is fantastic, and that is, it's yet another title that I don't think we're talking about as much as we should be right now.
Agreed.
And then with Leonardo DiCaprio, I know, like, another divisive movie, Don't Look Up. I am a big fan of it. I thought it was very effective, and I think it was doing exactly what it set out to do. And Leonardo DiCaprio does get one of my absolute favorite performance beats and lines of dialogue towards the end of the film, which really excites me. But when I'm looking at the field, I'd rather see other people get in over him. So I guess of these 3, Joaquin Phoenix is the only one that I would wholeheartedly root for.
I agree with Perry. Joaquin Phoenix is, out of these 3 that you mentioned, far and away the one that I would root for the most, and be inclined to put in our top 5 and move Denzel off. But I'm not doing that because we all agreed that Denzel should be there.
There's 2 other
Joaquin Phoenix, his performance in Come On, Come On, to follow his Oscar win for The Joker with a role that is so fundamentally different. And also, I have to say that for his entire career, I don't think I've ever liked his character as much as I did in Come On, Come On. I just really, I got him. I understood him. I empathize with him. I love this movie. I love his character in this film. I just love the movie, written and directed by Mike Mills. Now, for DiCaprio, I too, Perry, I'm a fan of Don't Look Up. I didn't love it, but I liked it a lot. I think that DiCaprio has been better elsewhere, and there are other people that I'm rooting for to make this list if Denzel doesn't. Bradley Cooper, we already talked about Nightmare Alley. I was underwhelmed. I thought that Shape of Water and Pan's Labyrinth from Guillermo del Toro were much, much better films. I thought that Bradley Cooper has been better elsewhere. I think he was actually maybe a little miscast for Nightmare Alley. The performance, I have to say that nobody's really mentioning, but they should, because it is absolutely an Oscar-worthy performance, is Simon Rex in Red Rocket. Holy Toledo. What a first of all, this movie is fantastic. Written and directed by Sean Baker, who did Tangerine and The Florida Project. But Simon Rex, who did he was in like the Scary Movie franchise, and he was kind of, his commercial peak was far behind him, and he gets a role like this to put him into Oscar contention, as he should be. If you haven't seen Red Rocket, it's a wild, wild film. And Simon Rex just knocks it out. He doesn't just knock it out of the park. He knocks it off the planet. That is an Oscar-worthy performance that I'm really rooting for to make the final cut when the nominations are announced. Did either of you see this movie?
Yes, I saw it on Christmas Day, and it was the best movie that I saw on Christmas Day. And I thought Simon Rex was terrific, and he is one of the two other actors I think should be in the mix. To me, the 5 slot, like I did with Alana Haim in Best Actress, the 5 slot is like a passion play. It's a passion pick. And I think that when you have those, when you have that, it's between Simon Rex and Nick Cage for Pig.
Yes.
Those
That's the one we've been missing.
Right. Those are the two guys, Simon Rex and Nick Cage, who it's like they deserve it. But is the Academy really going to embrace Simon Rex over Denzel? I have a tough time buying that.
I don't think the driver changes.
That's a good point.
Cage is a bit of a different story, obviously, because he's Nick Cage and he's previously won. But yeah, I just had a tough time predicting him or Rex over Denzel, even though I think that they both belong there before him.
I would genuinely be surprised if our 5 changed. Like, I know we're still a little far out, but this is just one of those categories where I think it's pretty clear.
Denzel ain't gonna shake any hands or kiss any babies this season, I'll tell you that. So like, there's not gonna be any campaign from Denzel.
I mean,
he is out there. He's doing screenings and doing like Q&As and stuff like that. Of course, Denzel is a 2-time Academy Award winner for Training Day from 2001 and for Glory for supporting actor from back in 1989. He was nominated 6 other times just for acting for Cry Freedom, Malcolm X, The Hurricane, Flight, Fences, and Roman J. Israel Esquire. And I got to say, I agree. I think that our 5 picks, since the fact that we agree on them completely says a whole lot. I think that it's going to be hard for those to change. But I just want to throw this out there to Perry. What about Adam Driver? What about Javier Bardem? What about Jude Hill, the kid from Belfast? Mahershala Ali, Swan Song? No.
I can't believe THR is still predicting Jude Hill for Belfast. This is like not happening.
Yeah, that's not happening. I have a question for both of you.
Yep.
Because clearly the pandemic has come back full force. We're in another peak, and it's changed the game yet again for how you campaign for nominations. So given the fact that all of that has changed and everyone's methods for getting their movies and their individuals out there is going to be different, do you think that serves names like Denzel better, or someone that, like an Amelia Jones or a Simon Rex, someone that, that needs to kind of pound the pavement? Is it kind of obliterating their chances because they don't necessarily get traditional face time to add to that enthusiasm?
Well, I think that's a great question, Perry. I think that the studios, the streamers, the PR agencies, the awards strategists are doing everything they can to kind of have a season that's closer to 2019 than to 2020. There are in-person screenings that are happening with Q&As and such by the actors and directors. Not as many of them. And there were things that were lined up that were canceled because of the surge from Omicron. So it's better than 2020, not as good as 2019. I think it depends because the Oscars aren't until the end of March. So there's still time to see if the surge is going to be short in a sense that people like Simon Rex and Amelia Jones will be able to get out there and pound the pavement and draw attention so they can get that coveted Oscar nomination. I think that really needs to happen, especially in the case of people like Simon Rex, maybe Nicolas Cage, definitely Amelia Jones. Jeff, what's your take on that?
But not for the nominations though, because that's the window that we're talking about. Like once someone gets a nomination, I'm choosing to be hopeful that we'll do the right things and we'll fight this off again, and then we'll be able to get back out there and pound the pavement. But in the weeks remaining, like the approach has completely changed, and I think it's not working in their favor anymore.
No, I agree with you. It's not. I mean, I know that they're certainly trying, and there's just a lot of headwinds. There's just a lot of headwinds. I mean, if it's one thing, almost 2 years later, we're still in this damn thing. It's just really nuts. Jeff, what's your answer to Perry's question?
As far as the pandemic affecting campaigning, or I've got
Just,
a little
just
lost
like
in the weeds there.
no, just in terms of like it seems like when you have lesser known folks and they get out there and they get FaceTime with people, and that's how you spread the word and you increase someone's chances of a nomination, versus, let's say, a Denzel Washington, who may be our number 4 or 5 pick right now, but because he's Denzel Washington and everyone's already well aware of him and his filmography and how much, we all love his work, it automatically gives a very popular name a better chance over someone who is introducing themselves to a body of voters.
I suppose, but I also look at it this way. I mean, Coda has had such a head start on all these movies.
Fair.
Like, that's had a year of buzz, and Macbeth came out a couple days ago. So I don't know. I think it could be the pandemic and could affect things either way. I tend to believe that Oscar does like its ingenues, particularly in the Best Actress race.
Well, that is a lot to ponder. So just recapping our Best Actress nominees, we got Kristen Stewart, Olivia Colman, Nicole Kidman, Penelope Cruz, and Jessica Chastain. And for lead actor, we got Will Smith, Benedict Cumberbatch, sorry, Jeff, Andrew Garfield, Denzel Washington, and Peter Dinklage. What do you think of our picks for our nominations? What do you think of the Oscar chances for Spider-Man No Way Home? Make sure you comment below, or hit us up on Twitter and let us know what you think. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at MovieMance. Jeff, where can people find you?
At the InSnyder and InSnyder Plus on Twitter.
And Perry, obviously they can follow you here on your channel, but what about Twitter and Instagram?
Twitter and Instagram is at Pete Emmeroff.
Okay, well, once again, big, huge, massive thank you to Perry Nemiroff for saving FYC for season 4, so we could do what we do, and we are grateful for your help and your support for spreading the word about FYC so we can keep going through season 4 and beyond. Make sure you come back next time for FYC. We're going to look at the supporting actor and actress categories and maybe some other things as well. Until then, FY, see you later.